So I think AI is a great tool to use, but I don't think it's at the point yet where it's totally going to replace, humans writing captions.
I mean, I've had clients greet me in their driveway, like, hey, all excited, because they've been following me for a while.
Your relationships with your clients and potential clients is so important. So using social media as an aid to help build those relationships when you don't even have to leave your house to do it is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And especially with social media marketing, people aren't super familiar with it. So I'll notice that they follow me, they watch my stuff for a little bit, they get more educated, and then they feel comfortable reaching out and saying, okay, I think I need this for my page.
Yes, and I've had friends that were in a business, and they say, I know I have to be on there, but I'll get around to it. I've heard that so many times. I'm like, well, it's better now than later, Hello everyone, and welcome to Design Discussions with Nadine. I am Nadine, and today's guest is Grace, and she is with Expand Your Brand Marketing, and I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
This is a little bit different from my usual guests, but I think I did mention it goes hand in hand. Most all of my guests use social media for marketing their businesses. So Grace is going to talk to us today about everything related to branding, social media marketing, and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to share it with y'all.
Yeah. So your company basically focuses on social media marketing, branding, right? And content creation. So what got you into wanting to do this? I know that you have had a business since you were very young, right? You started a business when you were 11. That's amazing. And you baked cakes?
Yes, I baked cakes for other kids and families in my neighborhood, go door to door with my little order forms. So I've always been an entrepreneur since a very young age.
That's amazing. I know my son he's a baker too, so I should get you to talk to him about expanding his brand. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And then you also mentioned that it wasn't necessarily your first job that really had an influence on you, but you had worked for Chick-fil-A for a long time, right?
Yes.
And what did that do to help you as far as where you are now?
Well, I think Chick-fil-A is such an interesting company to learn from, just from a business perspective as a whole. But I was able to go through their leadership program, and they really shape you into someone that's going to be a good manager and leader for other people. And I learned a lot about systems. Chick-fil-A has their drive-through. Yeah. And as a manager, it's your responsibility to make sure that that system is running as smoothly as possible. And there's always bumps that happen along the way. And, when you're working in the food industry, you got to think fast on your feet, because the drive-through, you got to get people in and out in under 3 minutes.
And they do. I'm always amazed by how it seems like that line is so long, but boy, it's efficient.
Yes. So you learn so much about efficiency and how to find pain points in certain systems. And I've definitely taken that perspective of how to make systems run smoothly and also implement that into my business.
Okay. So then getting into what you do now, what drove you in that direction, getting into this social media marketing? Like, what made you go into the field?
Well, I've always loved making videos. I made beauty vlogs back in the day, or filming them on my Mac computer and photo booth. And so I've always loved just creating content. And so then I started on TikTok, and I gained a following, and then I started to work with brands like Neutrogena, Nordstrom Rack, and I created content for some of their social media campaigns. And at the time, I was also working at a law firm, and they would read over those contracts with those companies, and they started asking me more about it. Like, you're doing these campaigns for these businesses, could you do our social media? And of course I said absolutely, because I love doing it. And from there I started networking in the local College Station community and just really started to connect with more entrepreneurs and saw a need in the market for it, and also know that I needed more people to help me. So that's when I launched the agency, so that way we can also offer content creation services.
That's great. And you've been doing it for 3 years now, right?
I've been in social media marketing for 3 years, but our agency was launched this past August.
That's great. And 3 years doesn't seem like it's a very long time, but I think in this particular area, it is a long time to see changes that have happened, right?
Yes.
I mean, because I think, social media is growing so much, and it has kind of exploded even more so over the last 3 years. Do you see that there's been changes or any changes that have occurred in the few years that you've been doing it?
Yeah, so when I started on TikTok, short form content was really leading. And over time, when, as humans, as we consume this short form content, our attention spans really decline. But now TikTok is trying to keep more people on that app. And so their time spans range from like 1 minute to 10 minutes now. And we also see podcasts are really popular. So social media is really trying to implement ways to keep users on these platforms for a lot longer than just, say, 10 seconds.
Yeah. And of course, you being in this business, you know the importance of social media. So let's go through some of those as far as for businesses, because I think in the past, everybody was so worried about their website, which of course people still want to have a nice website, but there was so many other different ways people use to get business, and now it just seems like everybody is on social media, and that's where a lot of people get business from. So in your opinion, being that you're the expert in this, what is the importance of being on social media to potentially make money, bring clients, customers, and things like that?
Absolutely. So social media has so many different ways that you can stay connected to your current clients and also gain the attention of new clients. And especially if on Instagram there is the Reels section. So that's where the algorithm is pairing you with content that you would most likely keep consuming. So social media is so important to stay connected to your current and potential clients. So you have this opportunity to create an authentic relationship with your viewers, which is so different than, let's say, a website, because usually when you look up a website, you kind of have a general direction of if you're looking up interior designers or a certain website that you're trying to find. Whereas social media uses the algorithm to pair you with other accounts that you would enjoy their content or pair you with accounts that you would interact with. So for businesses, this is so important because they can help connect you with other clients that would definitely be able to use your services.
And there's also a effect of using social media properly, right? Because so many people can use social media to post things for their business, say pictures or whatever, but there is definitely a way to use it properly to make it effective.
Absolutely.
So what is your opinion on that? Or is there some advice that you can give to people for, how to use it effectively to make it successful for them?
Yeah, so in the past, typically just posting was enough. And nowadays, you really have to have a strategy for your social media page. And we see this a lot of time with hooks. So on the Reels and the TikToks page, if you really want to get people's attention, you've got to spend time planning out the video and thinking about what is your hook that you're going to bring people in, because people can scroll really fast. If people don't like your video within the first second or 2 seconds.
I was going to say there's a timeline for that too. It's literally really short.
Yes, it's very short. So, you have to make sure that the image looks right when people scroll and see your video. You've got to make sure the text is very clear. With Instagram, they have these fonts that are more cursive-y, and yes, they're beautiful, but when you're talking about accessibility, you need to make sure that your hook is clear, your text is clear, and making your content very user-friendly.
Mm-hmm. And then what about hashtags? There's some back and forth about that. I know a lot of people were like, oh, they're so important back then. Then there was a time where I feel like they're not as important, and then I'm like, now people are saying they are important. So it's like you get pulled in a million different directions. So like, what is in your opinion, like, are they important? Do you only need to have a few key ones? Should you literally fill half a paragraph with hashtags? It's very confusing for people because there's so much back and forth on what is the right information.
Yeah, so with hashtags, they are important, but not as important as they used to be. And I think the reason why is important. So in the past, the algorithm wasn't able to pick up the text on screen. So let's say POV or point of view, you're an interior designer in the Woodlands. So if that was your text on your video, the algorithm in the past couldn't read that. So in order to push your content out to your interior design clients and geographically to the Woodlands area, you would have to use a hashtag to say hashtag the Woodlands, hashtag interior design. Mm-hmm. But now that you can use that in text, it doesn't exactly make the hashtags as important. but you really want to be concise and clear with the hashtags that you're using. So that's why it's so important to work with a social media agency to help you really narrow down how to optimize your content to be able to correctly push it in the right direction.
And that's the other thing too, a lot of people feel like they want to have control over what's happening. And I know we had one of my questions is always horror stories. So you said you necessarily might not have a horror story, but you have a situation just like that, control. So tell me about that.
So some people have a vision of what they want their social media to look like. But nowadays, with all of the strategies and the different styles of content, it's really important to rely on an agency to give you the best guidance. So of course, we're not going to alter your brand unless you want to rebrand, but our ideas are really placed strategically to, hit that 1 to 2 second hook that you need. And it might not look as pretty as you want, because nowadays with social media, iPhone content is so important because that makes people feel more personable. So ultimately, just relying on an agency and trusting in them that they know what they're doing, and social media is changing. So just being willing to learning what those new adaptations are in this world.
So that's the importance of using an agency like yours, right? To help
Yes.
somebody to understand the whole concept of social media and how to use it effectively.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the other thing too. A lot of people, I think, have an idea of, well, I can post. Why do I need to pay somebody to do it? So what's the benefit then of using an agency like yours as opposed to somebody just,
Just putting it out there.
putting it out there, yeah.
Well, that's the point exactly. When you're just putting it out there, there is no strategy behind it, and that takes time. And for a lot of business owners, and you're already pressed for time. So, and ultimately, social media sometimes falls to the bottom of the list. And so you're not actively implementing a strategy that's going to reach those followers. And as we've seen, everyone's loving social media. More people are getting on it. So it's very competitive to get those views and attention. So allowing an agency to help you craft content that's going to perform well is so important, because it's just not worth your time to try and figure it out on your own, because even like you said, I've been in it for 3 years, and there's been so many changes. It changes every single week, and the average business owner doesn't have the time to keep up with those things.
Yeah, because I've seen it happen to people that I know, that they really want to be on social media. They want to put their business out there, but either they don't have the time or the energy to focus on it. And I've had friends that were in a business, and they say, I know I have to be on there, but I'll get around to it. I've heard that so many times. I'm like, well, it's better now than later, So yeah, I think it's hard for people to really just have the time. Like you said, as business owners, we're so busy. It's hard to. We got to have help.
Exactly.
Right. So 3 years that you've been in this industry, there have been changes that have occurred, right? But I want to go to the struggles that you may have had or seen for your own self. Have you had any struggles, or what have you seen there over the course of the last 3 years that you've been in business?
Some of the struggles that I've had is that I'm also a student. So I'm in grad school right now, and I started my business when I was in undergrad at Texas A&M. So trying to balance school and my business has been a lot. So there's some days where it just gets really stressful, but that's why I have my Google Calendar to keep me on track. And it's definitely, it's a learning process to learn how to manage your time and still give my education my all while also giving my all to my clients. So that's definitely been something that I've been working through.
Yeah. And then how do you get the majority of your clients? Is it by referral? Of course, you're out there on social media, obviously, but where is the most place where you would get the majority of the clients that you have?
The majority is from social media. There is some word of mouth, and this is what I've seen on socials and why it's so important to have it, is because people might hear about your company and then they might go follow you. And before they're going to reach out, they want to learn a little bit more. And especially with social media marketing, people aren't super familiar with it. So I'll notice that they follow me, they watch my stuff for a little bit, they get more educated, and then they feel comfortable reaching out and saying, okay, I think I need this for my page.
Yeah, so they get to know you a little bit. And that's the other thing too with social media. And I see it in my business too as a builder, that people feel like they know you when they can see you on camera, right? So even before we even meet them, I've had clients greet me in their driveway, like, hey, all excited, because they've been following me for a while.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing, because it really brings a family type connection to people, because in their mind, they feel like they already know you.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. It's so important. It was funny, I was having a coaching lunch with one of my clients, and one of their friends came up that was in the same industry, and she was like, Grace, expand your brand. I want to give you a hug. I feel like I already know you. And that is like one of the best compliments I can get about my social media, and especially like you're a builder, like you're working in the service industry too, and your relationships with your clients and potential clients is so important. So using social media as an aid to help build those relationships when you don't even have to leave your house to do it is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. And because prior to social media, people didn't know one person from the next, or they couldn't get a feel of somebody's personality or whatever. So I think it's great. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to use social media to get clients to get to know you before they get to know you.
Exactly, right? They get a little sneak peek.
Yeah, and then I have had so many people then tell me, you're the same way that you're on camera. I'm like, well, yeah.
It's me.
It's me. I'm not a persona. I am this. This is me on camera, and this is me in person. So I think it's great, and it gives people a good comfort to then start working together, and then, makes them happy.
Absolutely.
So it's great,
Yes.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said is about having authenticity on your page. That is really something we push with our clients, because I think sometimes when people think about social media, it's like, oh, we want to be buttoned up and proper and everything, but honestly, just being who you are on social media is important for that reason. So when you show up for that first initial consultation, it's not like, wait, it was different when I saw you online and now you're different in person. It's important to stay authentic to who you are when you're putting yourself out there.
So being yourself is really important. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to use your company, how does the typical process work? So if somebody reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I want you to help me with my social media, what are the steps that you take to bring somebody on, and how do you get to know what they want? I'm sure there's lots of meetings and things, but what is your process, basically?
So our process is, first we have an initial consultation or discovery call. So we just get on the phone or meet in person, we chat about what are your goals for social media and just marketing in general, because I also want to know that social media is going to help you. I don't work with everyone, because for some businesses, it might not be a good investment. So I definitely want to keep their best interest in mind. So first, have an initial consultation, figuring out which of our services would work best, because we offer social media management, where we're managing the account for you, but maybe you're still filming your projects, but we're the ones that are editing and uploading and doing all those hashtags and keywords. Or content creation, where we're filming it, we're coming out with you to your projects and filming it. Or there's packages where we have both. So we ultimately put together a couple custom packages, figure out what's best for you. When we decide what avenue we're going to go down, then we book your strategy call. So this initial call is where we really take a deep dive into your brand. Who are you? What is your purpose? Why do you want to be on social media? Really asking all those questions, so that way we can create a really solid social media strategy for you. And before that call, we also dive into your analytics. So we're going to do an audit on the current status of your social media and review that with you. And then we're going to take all that information and make a new content calendar. So giving you some fresh ideas. We have a software that we use that we plan out your content a month in advance and putting in all those ideas. We either film if we need to film with you, or give you time to gather your content, send it back to us, and then we have a proposed live date. And what's really important to us is business owners don't have a lot of time. So we want to give you like a month of content, finished, completed in advance, and have you approve it or critique it beforehand. So that way, when January 1st rolls around, boom, you're done. Your whole month of content is ready to go. We'll post it from there, and it's taken care of.
Oh, that's really good. And then what is your opinion on the amount of posts people should be doing? Because that's another thing too that I think confuses a lot of people. Of course, the more you put yourself out there, the more people will see you, but then I think people are like, well, you don't necessarily need to post, multiple times a day or every day. So in your professional opinion, what do you think is the best approach for people to be posting? How much should they be posting? Or how often?
Yeah, it depends on what your goals are. So if you're looking to just maintain your following, stay connected to the people that you already have in your audience, maybe around 3 times a week doing like in-feed posts, but also showing up on stories, your Instagram stories, Facebook stories, TikTok stories, whatever avenue, or primary app you're using, showing up on their stories option or their daily one is so important. If you're looking for more of a growth, posting a lot more than you think you should. We're saying like 6 to 7 times a week, but they need to be quality posts. I see one of the biggest mistakes, if you're watching this, don't post the graphics, like all those little, you know what I'm talking about, those little graphics that always say like 25% off today on Instagram. It's not giving anything. So when we're talking about how often you're posting and when you are creating posts, think of, what is this bringing to my viewer? And if the only answer is it's giving me more money or they're going to bring me business, don't post it. Think about, social media is an exchange. It's a relationship. You want to bring some sort of value to them. So whether that's education about your industry or a tip or trick that's going to help them, and when you work with us, we really help you narrow down those ideas that are going to bring value to them as well.
And that's important too, having somebody like you guys to assist people, because that's another big problem. People don't know what to post. They don't know, like you just said, is it even worth the posting? Or people think, as long as I post something, it's good enough. No. So being able that you guys can help direct people in the right way is great for people, and they should really consider using a company like yours to help them.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. And putting your face out there, getting in front of the camera, it's an uncomfortable feeling at first, but that's what builds that personal relationship. There's been this trend on Instagram about, we can build your business, faceless without showing your face. We can just show your projects. From my standpoint, it's super hard to build a relationship with someone or with a business when there's no person attached to it. So show up, have your dedicated person that's going to be the face of it, and put them in everything.
Because that goes back to the personal relationships people want, right?
Yes.
And it's important that people feel a connection to a company or a business that they want to use for whatever it might be, right? And then, so social media, so many people are on different platforms, right? Some people might use Instagram, some people might, do the YouTube thing, Facebook, some people are not necessarily on every platform. So is it in your opinion that as a business, you should be on every platform to kind of attract people from different avenues, or from different, because if somebody doesn't have TikTok, but they have Instagram, right? So it's of the opinion that you should post on everything, right?
Right, and that's kind of the opinion that's been out there, but I also think about narrowing it down and find out where your ideal clients hang out. Where, if you're in the age range of maybe it's 40 to 50-year-old females, where do they hang out? And it might be multiple apps. It might be Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook, so posting on those platforms, but maybe posting on X might not be a great option for you. Right. So just thinking about where do the people that want to be your clients, where do they hang out is what I like to say. Okay. And then we work backwards from there. And it's also important too when you're talking about posting on different platforms, a lot of people think you can take one piece of content and post it everywhere. And in some cases that's true. If you're splitting a video into clips, you might be able to do that. But for some apps, you really have to think about what is that app's algorithm and making content purely for Instagram and Facebook, and then TikTok's a different strategy, things like that we have to take into consideration.
And that makes sense, because most people would think, well, if I just put this one video everywhere, it's going to work. But the audience in one place may not necessarily be the same as somewhere else, so you want to capture it in a different way.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then what quality of video do you feel like performs best on social media?
Right now, I think user-generated content is really leading, not only in views, but also with conversion from people actually buying the product after seeing the video or going to the restaurant. There's one example that really sticks in my mind, and there's this really cute video of a couple girls that were out to dinner. They were drinking martinis, laughing, having a good time, and they were playing this game where they were pulling these cute little cards out and asking each other questions. And I thought it was just another friend that I saw on social media. They're having a good girls' night. But then I looked into the account, and it was actually the brand that created the cards. And so they subliminally hooked me into watching their video, and then ultimately I'm like, oh, I want to go order those cards on Amazon because it looks like they had so much fun at dinner, chatting, and that's how people are really sneaking their content in and keeping you hooked. Because for me, if I see this super professional video of, let's say, like a restaurant, the food looks delicious, immediately I think it's an ad, and I'm gonna scroll. I'm like, I just want to see my friends, But if it looks like my friend posted it, like, oh, I'm having a girls' night at X, Y, and Z, you should come. I'm like, oh, maybe I will.
So that's the explanation of that term, user-generated content, right? Making it look like it's a regular user, but it's actually a company that made it.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's also this other one that did so well, and it was this girl that was promoting an espresso martini brand. And she had the espresso martini in front of her, and it was a canned espresso martini. So it was sitting in front of her, and it looked like she was on a date. This guy was asking her questions. He was just being super weird. And she said, point of view, like, you're on a weird Hinge date. And everyone was like listening, like, what is that guy saying? And she's like sipping her martini. And it was an ad for that canned martini company. So it's so working in those subliminal ways to market your product while looking like another user is so important.
That's interesting. That made me think of another question to ask you your opinion on about AI. So that's another thing that's becoming very popular. How do you see that being effective in social media marketing? Do you feel like it's going to affect companies like yours? What's your opinion on that?
So I think AI is a great tool to use, but I don't think it's at the point yet where it's totally going to replace humans writing captions, because we played around with ChatGPT when it came out, making it say funny things, or can you write a quirky caption for XYZ brand, and it's still not up to date with the personality. You really want it to be authentic and sound like a human, and they have a hard time sounding natural, or they can have some weird stuff spit out.
Or it's too professional sometimes, I feel like. Now, of course, businesses should have a professional aspect, but I feel like, because I've used it too for a couple things, and I feel like it comes off way too stale or too stiff, right?
Yeah.
And especially for like social media, you want to have a little bit of fun, like you said, authentic backing to it.
Yes.
So there was a few times I actually tried it to use it on captions for my posts, and I would put it in there, and then I would literally change the whole thing around.
Right.
Like I would take maybe one line from it, and then the rest I'm like, I just put it in myself, because it's still a little bit too professional.
Yeah.
I would say.
But it is great for market research, and we use that sometimes, which finding, based off of current data, what are the pain points of this demographic in this industry. And so it's really great for, I think, finding data in your demographics that you're going to use. But I think as far as writing captions, which a lot of people have been talking about, I don't think it's there yet.
Okay. It's not there yet. Grace says it's not there yet. But you heard it here from the professional. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me and talking and giving your expertise on all things social media. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was amazing chatting with you, too.
And we'll have to have you back again. Like I said, I'm sure in 6 months things will change again, and we can sit down and talk some more. So thanks for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I hope you learned a little bit more about the crazy world of social media.
Yeah, well, I think they could have learned a little bit, but there is so much to learn, unfortunately. There's a lot to learn out there. So anyways, thanks again, Grace. I appreciate it so much. And stay tuned for the next one.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.